Hello, I'm Toby Fox from 1.5 Million New Homes, the local government challenge sponsored by Redloft and by Vistry. Now, across this series, we've been asking the question, what works, but also what has to change to get more homes built? In this series, Building the Olympic Park, we're asking a different question. How did one of the country's most ambitious examples get started and continue when so many other projects stall or fail? And we've been listening to the people who were there who made it happen. Neale Coleman, Michelle May, Eleanor Fawcett, Guy Nicholson, Paul Brickell, and the man who literally wrote the book, Dave Hill. In this episode, we're looking at how you build a place rather than just homes.
Believe it or not, the ODA, the Olympic Delivery Authority's sort of plans for what they were going to be handing over to the LLDC in the south, around where the orbit is and so on, was tarmac. That was all we were going to get. Literally, the whole thing was going to be tarmac with nothing else, not a single tree on it. The whole area tarmac with the orbit sticking out of it like a sort of sore thumb. The work that we did with HR&A Associates, who are a sort of New York-based firm who developed the vision for the High Line, for example, in New York, was that actually you needed to turn that on its head. And the only way to sort of really secure success was first and foremost to get local people there from day one, because we all know bits of cities which are pretty desolate and no local people go to, right? And, if you're a tourist somewhere, you might kind of go along there and then sort of look around and be like, well, this feels a bit dead and kind of, leave again. And we knew that for the housing and, the vision to create a new piece of London to be a success, it couldn't feel like that. It couldn't feel desolate. It couldn't feel like it had no life. And so first and foremost, we had to get local people there. Secondly, we needed to have the sort of programming, to have the big events and have the, the sort of day in, day out rhythm of activation. And then only thirdly, it started to become a sort of international visitor destination. And so all of the funding that we were able to secure from government, from the Marathon Trust, from other sources, it was over 30 million that we were able to secure off the back of that business plan, was all about getting local people there. So that's why there's such a cool playground at Timber Lodge at Tumbling Bay that was only meant to be a toilet block. And we were like, we have to get children there because then they bring their parents with them and then they'll come back again. And in the south, all of the, the fountains and all of the lovely little kind of spaces that we created in the boulevard of trees, that was all about, where can you have your kids' party? Where might you come for your first date? It was really like, what do people want in East London?
We did at times have crunch decisions between games and legacy. And it was important mostly to veer on the side of doing the best thing for the games. Because of that reason, we had to have a triumphant 2012 games, as in the end we did. And that really set up, I think, the possibilities to make the legacy even better than it might have been. But first of all, if you go to the park today and look at the quality of the landscaping there, particularly in the northern part of the park, if you look at the way in which those reed beds have been put in to deal with flooding, fantastic quality in the design. And that reflects really the work of the Olympic Delivery Authority and the designers and people who worked on that. And that really created the landscape platform to make the park a fantastic place. And you've only got to go there today on a weekend, look at the literally thousands of people who are in there, the children enjoying the amazing play facilities and so on, to see how successful that's been.
And I think one of our challenges was not only the buildings themselves, but also, I guess, the crowd movement requirements and the sort of scale that you're dealing with for, event days. And of course, the scale that the Olympics itself was dealing with and the size that they had to build the bridges and so on, versus what you want to create like human scale, and basically they're opposite ends of the spectrum. And so I think the designing a piece of city around major venues, you can see it in Wembley, you can see it on the Olympic Park, is definitely something that's pretty hard to retrofit. So I think we were fortunate that we knew right from the beginning, like which venues were staying, how they were going to operate. But don't forget that initially the stadium was going to be removed. So the whole of the top of the stadium was going to be lifted up, and we were just going to have a 25,000 seat, almost kind of amphitheatre style sort of bowl in the ground for athletics. And so a lot of the early planning was around actually having more housing and more development, where the stadium is now, kind of almost embedding that into the city fabric more. So there were a few changes like that, which did then mean that we had to really rethink how that was going to work on match day. But I think some of the brilliant moves that were made, for example, the lovely fountains that all of the kids absolutely adore in the Olympic Park, the reason that that's like that is because that space was needed to manage the fans on match days, but we didn't want it to be sort of tumbleweed for the rest of the time. So having something that you can activate on a non-match day and turn off on a match day, I think was a very clever sort of solution to that.
I said, look, Shoreditch and Hoxton is my generation's place, okay? And I'm now 60-something. And, so when I was an art student, back in 1981, 2 and 3, it was Hoxton.
Yeah.
That was the place that was falling apart. No one wanted to be there, but it was cheap enough for all of us to go there. And we thought this is pretty cool, and off we all went.
Be creative.
We could do what we wanted to do, and we did it. Hackney Wick is my daughter's generation. That is the generation of the 90s, or who were born in the 90s. And that is Hackney Wick. And that, it's their place. It's the place that they are owning. And now what's going on, one of the developers there over in Hackney Wick is now finding that they are getting expressions of interest to move into some of the new homes they are building from people living on the other side of the River Lee in the Olympic Park and their families. And these are couples who are creating a life and they're moving around this place now within it. So a lot of talk of visitors coming to this place. But actually, there's a community in this place that is now anchored into this place.
And there's enough diversity.
And they're moving around within it now.
Because there's enough diversity for them to be able to move as different parts of their life across different parts of the park.
Plexel is, to me, is one of the most successful legacy elements from the 2012 Games. And all credit to them, they took the risk and they have played the investment, underwritten it, and then delivered it. And it's extraordinary. I'll never do it justice. It is the most extraordinary kind of sort of collection of, I'm going to say, companies, businesses, enterprises, organizations, all of whom have a very, very kind of sort of clear focus on technology, creativity, and its applications into all aspects of daily life. So you've got some extraordinary kind of sort of presence, companies that are present within that particular bit of real estate. And there is an extraordinary kind of energy. And then you land into it, the V&A Storehouse. And what you end up with is an extraordinarily complementary cultural facility sitting alongside industry, business and commerce. And you're getting this cluster of small, medium and large-sized businesses who are all into this, and I use the word again, this sort of frontier industry kind of territory. And they're all combining and they're overlapping. And I think that is absolutely as it should be. I'd always sort of said, no, this is Shoreditch on the Lee here.
Yeah.
But I don't want to call Shoreditch on the Lee because it's not Shoreditch, it's Hackney Wick, you know. But
it stands in its own right.
Yeah, but it is the next iteration, the next generation's version of Shoreditch.
Yeah.
And what Shoreditch is today and what it was sort of back in the day as two. It's not displacing Shoreditch, it's actually adding to it. And so it's a bit like Shoreditch has jumped.
Yeah.
Ooh, you know, but it's done it with a new generation.
So you've got the sort of rugged end, and you've got the more sort of some more urban end, which is where the stadium is, for example. But it always heartens me when I pay a visit to see that there are actually lots of people, families and children using the playground areas. Where UCL, the main UCL building is. You've got people making use of that space in their own way. So you've got people roller skating and using it for that. There's a bit of a parallel there with this Southbank Centre and the skateboarding that went on, which
is it good? Is it bad?
For a time, some people wanted to get rid of it, and then it was sort of, actually, no, this is something that people have made for themselves, and so it's good. Let's value it and try and enhance it. So it seems to me that the sort of organic sense of sort of bottom-up community development of the space and the different bits in it is taking place. So there's probably quite a long way to go still. There might be more things that the LLDC can do to facilitate and encourage that kind of thing.
We've got an interim use up at Hackney Bridge, so it will eventually be housing. It's like food, some workshop units, retail units. There's a cafe, the Badu Cafe. So Badu Sports, one of our community anchor network partners. They grew at Hackney, delivering sort of PE, physical education within Hackney schools. They're now sort of delivering programming across the park and beyond, but they are a network of networks. You know, they're working with young children over a period of years, and their parents and their families, and having those sort of trusted anchor networks that, you know, it might be someone's first step into the park. They're not going to trust what I say. And, and Badu have got to trust what I say before they ask others to trust them. Again, that's about building relationships, working together, being honest with people, never sort of over-promising just to get a plan through. Just, not the way to go. But I just feel like that sort of community that we've built here, still a way to go. But that sort of that high trust environment is absolutely key to the success of the programme.
But there are still challenges. You know, there's a multi-storey car park to be developed. Well, what should that be? Should that be some kind of storage depot for self-storage kind of use? Or should it be a grow-on space for kind of businesses who've got products that are coming out of that community and they're going into production, but they're starting up? Well, to me, it should be the latter. Of course, it should be that. It should be about spaces where actually a product can be manufactured and then taken to market. And then eventually they may move on to somewhere else because they'll need even more space. But I mean, that's life. That's how it works. But the point about being an innovation district is that you can enable that. You can provide the geography, the topography, the economy, the people, and the place to do that. Do that and you'll have a new town.
So that's it for this episode of Building the Olympic Park, but we're going to be back with another episode in just a few days. So click like and subscribe and you won't miss that, and we'll look forward to seeing you.